Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. Two Brazilians are under arrest for human trafficking after a boat with 24 migrants from West Africa was rescued off the coast of northern Brazil. Brazilian authorities say a fishing boat came upon the drifting vessel with 27 people aboard, including migrants from Senegal, Nigeria, Guinea, Sierra Leone and Cape Verde, along with two Brazilians. The Brazilian newspaper Folha, citing a federal police officer, says the migrants paid to be illegally transported to Brazil. Now, Brazil's Navy says it has opened a probe, but is not commented on the arrest. Federal police say the boat had been at sea for 5 weeks. For more, I'm joined by Álvaro Lugero Andrade, managing editor of VOA Portuguese. Welcome to Africa 54, Álvaro.
Thank you for having me here.
So first, what are you hearing? You spoke to officials in Brazil. What are they saying more than what we just mentioned?
Yeah, really, this is a typical case of human trafficking. And the two Brazilians were already charged by human trafficking, like you said. The 25 migrants are from Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, and Guinea-Conakry, not from Cape Verde. I spoke with an advisor of the Cape Verde embassy in Brasilia, and she told me, no, there are no Cape Verdean among the immigrants, but the boat was bought in Cape Verde and left Cape Verde 16 or 17 April, 16 or 17. They tried to confirm what day. And the federal police revealed each immigrant paid around $1,200 for the trip. And it's not human trafficking for slavery. It's exactly a human trafficking fled the poverty in Africa, in those countries.
Now, they say that they were kind of adrift for about 35 days. How do they survive? Do they...
Some food, like 2 cookies per day, until the 5 days before they lost everything at boats. And then after 5 days, they didn't eat nothing. No food? Just water from the sea. And they was rescued by fishermen in the 8 miles from north of Brazil. But I spoke today with the police. One officer told me they are in good condition, health condition. They talk with the family, I don't know, in Cape Verde or in their country. The police can say if this guy took the boat in Cape Verde or in West Africa. In Cape Verde, there are a lot of immigrants from West Africa, maybe in Cape Verde.
Now, is this an isolated case, or are there usually some of the similar trips from
Now it's an isolated case. I asked the police and the advisor of the Cape Verde embassy in Brasilia. Both of them told me is the first case. I heard 2 or 3 migrants. They told the press in Brazil they tried to go to Brazil because the poverty in their country, and to look for a job in São Paulo or Rio de Janeiro, not in the north. They are trying to go to the south and try to find a job in the big metropolis like Porto Alegre, São Paulo or Rio de Janeiro.
Now, these suspected smugglers have been arrested. What are they saying about the immigrants themselves? Are they likely to be considered
for... We have no information about this. No information about this. No. The police told me today they start the interview today, the migrants, and they will decide until the end of the week if they can apply for asylum or refuge in Brazil, or they can be deported. Wow, this is the point of situation.
We'll wait and see and get some updates. Álvaro, thank you very much for joining us and giving us those updates. Well, Álvaro Lugero Andrade is the managing editor of VOA Portuguese. Now, turning now to the Ebola outbreak in the northeastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The deadly virus has killed more than 24 people. Africa 54 health correspondent Lenore Madu joins us now with more details. Lenore.
According to the World Health Organization, authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo have reported 2 more deaths from Ebola and 7 new cases. DRC's health ministry says the 7 new confirmed cases were registered in Bikoro, and one of the 2 new deaths occurred in Mbandaka. The outbreak is believed to have killed at least 27 people so far. Health officials are particularly concerned by the disease's presence in Mbandaka, a crowded trading hub on the Congo River with road, water, and air links to Congo's capital, Kinshasa.
So the vaccination started yesterday in Bandaka. 33 people received vaccine yesterday. They were health workers, but also a few people in two areas in a community in Bandaka. We will continue to do vaccination today. In Bikoro, our colleagues from MSF will be involved in vaccination. Hopefully this will start later in a week or the next week once the preparations are done.
Joining me live via Skype is Dr. Malonga Myatudila. He is a senior public health specialist and international consultant. Dr. Myatudila is one of the experts who first discovered the Ebola virus in 1976 in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Dr. Myatudila, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you back. Listen, now vaccines are being administered to some people in the DRC. Tell us, what segment of the population is receiving the vaccine?
From what I understood, the vaccine is going to be given to people who were in contact with sick, infected people, and with it's going to be given to health personnel.
Now, this is the 9th outbreak in the DRC. There was no vaccine available before, and the country has successfully contained past outbreaks. What is different this time?
Well, what is different this time is that we have come with a vaccine. We have been waiting for that vaccine for the last 40 years because we knew from the start that this is a disease that is, easy to control with serum from patients or vaccine. It's a disease that can be easily controlled with vaccine indeed, but it was not used so far, and I think now we have a new tool to increase the efficiency of the control of the disease.
One of the concerns, Dr. Malonga, is the fact that the virus traveled to Mbandaka, the city of Mbandaka. To what extent is this significant for future containment of the disease?
I don't think that it's going to increase the risk of the spread if the recipe that has been developed in the country is used, because so far we have had this problem. We had this problem in Kikwit, which is a big city in the center of Congo, and it's not very far from Kinshasa and connected with roads, very good, I would say, good roads to Kinshasa, but it was contained in Kikwit, and we think that this can be also done in Bandaka. For your information, the first time we had the outbreak of Ebola in 1976, we had 2 cases in Kinshasa, and we didn't have more, because if you really apply the recipe of containment, Ebola can be easily controlled.
Now, tell us about when you look at the current situation, and perhaps there are some misconceptions about Ebola. When we hear Ebola, people seem to panic. It's very deadly, and it seems to be contagious. It is contagious. But tell us about some of the misconceptions around this disease.
Let me start by saying that panic is the best ally for Ebola. Panic. When people start panicking, they flee, and it's very difficult to control the disease. But if we have a good knowledge of the Ebola, then panic is not really something that can be understood, because one, Ebola doesn't spread as easily as other diseases. If you have
it's not airborne. You have to be in close contact before.
It's not airborne.
Yes.
It doesn't spread through water like cholera, So you need close contact with the person who has Ebola.
With exchange of bodily fluids
or secretions. Yes. So it's if you know that, then the fear or panic is really baseless.
Okay, Dr. Malonga. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. We have to leave it there. Thank you so much. We have to understand that panic and fear is definitely not the attitude to have. We appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that was Dr. Malonga Miatudila. He is a senior public health specialist and international consultant. And that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter at Lenore Moudou. Vincent, back to you.
Well, Lenore, thank you very much. And be sure to watch Lenore Moudou's health report every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. Now, armed groups in South Sudan have released 210 children in Jonglei State's Pibor area. It is part of efforts by United Nations agencies and other partners to get warring parties to stop recruiting child soldiers. Most of the children are from the ranks of the Sudan People's Liberation Army in opposition. Many were recruited by force. Others say they had no choice but to head into the bush to fight because their parents were killed and they had no way to survive. They exchanged their guns and military fatigues in favor of a starter kit, which includes books, pens, clothes, bed sheets, a mosquito net, and other essential items.
It does not make sense.
It doesn't make much sense for someone to say they're defending the rights of the children, and that's why they're fighting, or they're defending the future of the children, and that's why they're fighting, or they're defending the future of the country, and that's why they're fighting. You cannot defend the future if you're destroying the future, because children are the future. So let us work together, shoulder to shoulder, and ensure that we make our words into action.
Well, about 728 South Sudanese child soldiers, including 185 girls, have been released from the armed forces so far. However, reintegrating them into their communities and ensuring they can access education and jobs to deter recruitment remains a challenge. Now, former CIA officer Gina Haspel is the first woman to head the U.S. spy agency after a swearing-in ceremony on Monday. Haspel has overcome the criticism by lawmakers, Republicans and Democrats for involvement in the torture of terror suspects after the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. VOA's Laditza Hoke reports from Washington.
Trump looked on as Vice President Mike Pence swore in the new CIA director.
There was nobody more qualified than you, and you are going to do a fantastic job, Gina.
Haspel has served with the CIA since 1985 in various positions, but most of her work has been covert. Her involvement in the interrogation of terror suspects, including torture, hampered her career advancement during the previous administration, even though such interrogation methods were legal at the time.
But what I question is her judgment and her fidelity to a core value of our nation that all people have certain inalienable rights. And underlying these inalienable rights is our belief in the basic dignity of human beings, a dignity that's incompatible with inhumane practices like torture.
It was not clear that the Senate would confirm her appointment as CIA director, as even some Republicans questioned her order for the destruction of videotapes documenting the interrogations.
I still have unanswered questions about the destruction of tapes. And when you combine those questions with, and you can't separate it from the person who nominated her, is pining to bring torture back. That makes a difference.
But 6 Democrats joined most Republican senators to support Haspel, and she was confirmed with a 54-45 vote. While praising his choice for new CIA head, Trump lashed out at one of her predecessors. John Brennan, CIA director during President Barack Obama's second term, has been a harsh critic of the president. In a tweet Sunday, he appealed to leading Republican lawmakers to stop enabling what he called Mr. Trump's self-serving actions. He was referring to Trump's demand that the Department of Justice investigate whether or not the department and the FBI improperly surveilled the Trump presidential campaign. Trump responded with a series of angry tweets accusing Brennan of having instigated the probe into his election campaign team's contacts with Russia. The president has called the investigation a witch hunt and wants it to end. Zlarica Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
You're watching Africa 54. In a moment, our former Liberian president speaks out on democracy and women's rights in Africa. But first, here's a recap of Tuesday's headlines.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, 2 more people have died from Ebola and 7 new cases were confirmed, authorities said on Tuesday. 27 people have died from the illness. Gambian President Adama Barrow appeals to an international conference for his country for 1.6 billion euros in financial aid for a national development plan. Somalia's government and the United Nations appeal for $80 million to address risks posed by climate change and the root causes of fragility, chronic poverty, and low human development. In Burundi, voters have overwhelmingly approved a new constitution, ushering in changes that could let the president stay in power till 2034. Opposition and rights groups are critical of the referendum process.
Well, she is a Nobel Peace Prize laureate and served in numerous international positions such as the United Nations, the World Bank, and in the private banking sector. Now, retired former Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is speaking about democracy and women's rights in Africa. Here's viewers Esther Gido-Yuwat.
She is held in high esteem as the first female president in Africa. Former President of Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, is also the recipient of the prestigious Mo Ibrahim Award, and she has been honored here in Washington, D.C. at the Council on Foreign Relations to discuss democracy in Africa as well as the development of women.
How do we explain that 12 years of one woman leadership in the continent and we're back to zero? Searching for where the next breakthrough will come.
She reflected on the difficulties she faced leading a post-Civil War Liberia.
We did a lot on the promotion of education, promotion of health. Those were the things that you just don't fix in a day-to-day routine.
Johnson Sirleaf urged fellow Africans to recognize and support the young people for the continent to realize its full potential.
Identify a group of young people that have the drive, the dynamism, you know, the push, put them in charge, get them to work, identify where the areas we're going to try and set those goals and accomplish those goals, and let them lead.
Sirleaf, who is a few months shy of her 80th birthday, says she's not done yet and plans to start a foundation to support young girls and motivate women across the continent to achieve more.
So we want to promote women in business. We want to identify those successful women across the continent. That's been really successful.
And for women to be vibrant in the society, she proposes training them to acquire various skills and support each other.
In the case of the business sector, we wanted to do an accelerator to identify 10 women, mostly in Liberia and neighboring countries, and put them through a program of learning how to access capital, learning how to do a business.
So what are the critical barriers that stand between women and top leadership positions in Africa?
Who sits in the boardrooms? You know, who are the shareholders? I think most of the decision making are the men who sit together and talk. I mean, those are the ones that move forward.
Many of Africa's political structures are centered on personalities who provide guidance and strategies for success, a promise that fades away as soon as electioneering periods end.
In our areas, it's so easy to start a new party. That's why you have multiplicity of parties all over the place, each one looking for the opportunity for success in an election.
Madam President, thank you. I'm thinking about your presidency. Do you see anything that you would have liked to do differently and probably would advise your successor, George Weah, to do so to champion the rights of women and move the country forward?
I toyed around in the early year of trying to appoint all women ministers to set an example. But I didn't achieve that. So I settled for putting them in all the prominent, non-conventional places to send a message. In retrospect, I think we could have been tougher with our judges. We can't move them. So I don't know, I think we will need a different political system. I think the American system is not working for us.
The Iron Lady of Africa is also calling on fellow Africans to discard outdated practices of denying girls education, marrying them off as child brides, and denying them opportunities to get back on their feet as a result of early pregnancies. Esther Guido-Ewart, VOA News, Washington.
Well, it's the early stage of planting season, and Nigerian farmers are devoting much of their time and energy to planting various crops. But without sufficient farming equipment and other components, their input may not equal output when it's time to harvest. Here's Emperor Simon of Channels TV in Nigeria.
It's another planting season, and the Niger State government is taking proactive steps to ensure that farmers in the state record a good harvest this year. To achieve this, 15 tons of fertilizers have been procured, which will be sold to farmers at a subsidized price of 5,500 naira per bag instead of the market price, which is almost double. The state governor test runs one of the 130 tractors bought for cooperative societies made up of at least 10 farmers. This will also be sold at 25% discount, while 50 units of rice threshing machines will be given out for free. Governor Abubakar Bello says beyond putting smiles on the faces of farmers, it is about maximizing the state's comparative advantage, which lies in agriculture.
We're this year expecting over 200 tractors, and hopefully going forward we'll get more. Niger as a state, as an agricultural state, being the largest state, will need not less than 2,000 trucks if we're serious about mechanization. So we still have a long way to go, but we have started.
For the most part, the plight of farmers stems from middlemen taking undue advantage of them, selling farming needs at outrageous prices. So a structure is put in place whereby farmers will tender tellers issued to them at designated banks to collect the quantity of fertilizer needed.
Considering that the fertilizers are already in our stores across the state, we solicit for the cooperation of the chairman of local government councils to sensitize and mobilize farmers in their various domains.
Over 80% of the indigents of Niger State are farmers, although most of them rural dwellers. By removing bottlenecks in accessing fertilizers and other farming needs, the state government hopes to increase the capacity of commercial farmers, as well as encourage more people to go into large-scale planting.
Well, now, despite a deeply traditional food culture in Ethiopia, foreign cuisine is fast becoming a preferred option for many in Addis Ababa. After making its entry into the country, the U.S. Pizza Hut chain offering is almost rivaling the traditional fast food injera. We get more in this channel's television report.
This Pizza Hut just opened about a month ago, and already there's a huge patronage, mostly on weekends. Attendants throw in the ingredients quickly just to meet up with the demand as customers wait to have a slice of the sumptuous meal. The U.S. fast food chain is the first major international restaurant franchise to open in Ethiopia. The local stakeholders plan to open a total of 10 Pizza Hut restaurants across major cities in the country. It is a significant shift in the Horn of Africa nation, where the traditional staple known as injera is a nationwide delicacy.
The response of the people is great, it's fantastic. I mean, let's also not forget that in Ethiopia we have over 350,000 expats, a huge diplomatic mission, which are from abroad and I have brand awareness. So they were very happy. But I must admit, most of our customers are Ethiopians, and I'm proud of that.
For many Ethiopians, pizza is a pleasant meal, but certainly no match for the injera, which is a soft, flat bread and comes with other condiments.
When it comes to injera, I can eat it 7 days in a week. In fact, I can eat it for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. Pizza Hut is obviously not that kind of food. Rather, it is another alternative that we can try out once in a while, once in a week or so.
Pizza Hut already has 188 branches across Africa and plans to expand even further.
The national dish in Italy is pasta. In Germany, it's sausage. In Canada, it's or in Argentina, it's meat. But they still have Pizza Hut. They still have McDonald's. So you know, everything in certain amount is good. Pizza Hut is now in almost 110 and 115 countries. So in all these countries, there's a national dish, but there's also sometimes a pizza you want to grab. So I think we more or less want to complement.
Teff flour, from which injera is made, is free of the protein gluten and is even being referred to as a superfood in the West for its nutritional value.
I don't think Ethiopians can easily let go of injera and switch their eating habits. The reason is you can get bored of eating other foods, but you can't easily get bored of injera. You can't get bored of injera even if you eat it 3 times a day.
Pizza is not new to Ethiopia. Many restaurants serve a variety of cuisine, although most of them are locally owned. There's also Efoi Pizza, a popular indigenous restaurant among Addis Ababa's young middle class, which opened 10 years ago.
We are not worried. You know why? I believe we have created our own distinct taste, and Pizza Hut has its own taste. There are various pizza chains in the world, and I can say we have our own taste.
Western retailers are increasingly targeting Africa, home to rising consumer spending in some of the world's fastest growing economies. Ethiopia, Africa's second most populous nation, holds massive potential. The government has already opened its doors to other foreign companies such as fashion chain H&M to set up factories in a decade-long push to change economic focus from agriculture exports such as coffee to manufacturing.
Well, and that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings today, Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us in Washington, have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Woodwork is any part of a house or building that is made of wood.
Crawl out of the woodwork.
This expression sounds troubling.
I won! I have the winning lottery ticket.
Oh, that's great. How much money did you win?
I won $25,000. But please, don't tell anyone.